I can't believe that Zofia went through this much in her childhood. Wow, guys, get ready for another great operator lore video. Today we are diving into Zofia and her pretty crazy childhood and lore before and after she joined Team Rainbow. We'll talk about how she almost died, had to make a life and death decision, and how she actually became a mother. But before we get into the video, make sure to subscribe to the Sir Jeppy YouTube channel with notifications, and don't forget to join the amazing Discord server. Link for that will be in the description. Let's start things off as we always do with when and where Zofia was born. Zofia's real name is actually Zofia Bozak, and she was born on January 28th in Wrocław, Poland, and she's 36 years old as of today. This is actually the first lore video I've ever made where the call sign the operator goes by is actually their name. I had no idea that her real name actually was Zofia. Moving on, Zofia was born into a very powerful family where her father, John Bozak, was the former commander of the Polish Special Forces unit, the Gram. This will become very important later on in the video. We don't know much about Zofia's mother, but I'm pretty sure everyone does know that Ella, one of the other defenders on Team Rainbow, is actually Zofia's little sister. From an early age, Zofia and Ella had a huge rivalry and really didn't get along almost their whole childhood. The main reason for this is because Zofia's father really favored Zofia over Ella, even though Zofia's father really went out of his way to show how much more he loved Zofia over than Ella, and how Zofia and Ella really didn't get along very much. Zofia is very protective over her younger sister Ella. So since John Bozak, Zofia's father, was a former commander of the Gram, he was able to have his very own military training school that Zofia and Ella both attended. Since the leader of the school is her father, Zofia felt the immense pressure of having to succeed at every aspect of her training. Zofia was much more conditioned and disciplined than Ella was, so she was able to keep up the rigorous training and scrutiny as opposed to Ella, who didn't receive the same time or love from her father, John. Coming up is probably one of the most traumatic experiences that Zofia has ever had to deal with, and it still haunts her to this day. During a school trip to the Masarian Lake district, Zofia was prey to a disturbing prank that quite literally almost killed her. Zofia was young at the time and was playing at the big lake when all of a sudden 3 boys from her class came up to her and they each took turns trying to drown her. Their reason for all of this is because it was just for fun. Luckily though, Zofia survived, but this traumatic experience would stay with her for the rest of her life. The worst part is that she still had to sit next to these 3 boys that literally tried to drown her in class. She never did tell anybody what happened on that day. Zofia started losing control of her anxiety issues. The only way where she felt that she could keep it at bay was with increasing her training regimen to the extreme to protect herself. She asked her father if he could push her training even further, so then he taught her some pretty brutal combat techniques. But Zofia never did ask her father how he learned all of these terrible ways to kill a man. The next morning, Zofia's father took her to the shooting range. Nothing out of the ordinary. They spend countless hours out there all the time. Except this time, it was yet another day where Zofia will have a traumatic experience happen to her that will stick with her forever. She watched as her father took 2 dogs out on the range and tied them up to a pole. He walked back, handed Zofia a rifle, and told her that one of the 2 dogs is sick and she needed to end its suffering. He then took out his pocket watch and said she has 2 minutes to decide or he'll kill them both. He started his watch. To Zofia, both dogs looked fine. She panicked as she looked down the scope for any clues of illness on any of the dogs, but she couldn't find any. The clock is ticking. His 2 minutes are almost up. Zofia pulled the trigger. She never did find out which dog was sick, or if any dog was sick for that matter. Her father's extremely harsh military training and that dreaded pocket watch haunted Zofia for years. Once Zofia became of age, she enlisted in the Polish army and became a member of the unit the Grom, the same specialist division that her father was a commander of so many years ago. Zofia was about to perform one of the most heroic acts that she has ever done in her lifetime. A massive hurricane plowed through Guatemala. Grom was dispatched to assist the search and rescue teams in Operation Red Agatha. The monstrous hurricane formed a massive sinkhole in the middle of the city, swallowing an entire neighborhood. While she was escorting engineers and scientists near the sinkhole, there was a sudden landfall. Zofia grabbed the closest child and threw him over her back and started sprinting away. With the child over her shoulder, she was running away as fast as she possibly can as the ground was literally crumbling away at her feet. Eventually, the ground gave way and she was left clinging on to what little ground was left. With the child on her back, Zofia used her bare hands to hold onto the ledge for an amazing 30 minutes as she waited for rescue. Once she was rescued from above the huge abyss, she went into the sinkhole and single-handedly rescued and escorted hundreds of civilians from the sinkhole. This act alone would grant her a medal and a promotion to second lieutenant. Overseas, Zofia started letting her guard down around people she trusted. For once in her life, she felt something truly special for someone. After the countless years of harsh training from her father and that fateful near-death experience she had at the lake so many years ago, she finally met someone she loved. She met her now husband on a rogue operation in Mali. The funny thing is about this story though, is that they almost killed each other as they mistaked one another for the enemy and they almost shot each other. But eventually they did fall in love. We don't know much about him though, as Zofia tends to keep her personal life private, but they got married back in Poland where she grew up. Now, something really strange is about to happen. At the wedding ceremony, Zofia noticed that her father was having drinks and hanging out with two suspects that were possibly linked to a very recent assassination of the Poland president. She was distraught. How could her father be allies with a possible enemy? She left the wedding early, faking being sick. As she investigated this, she found out that she was pregnant. She shared the wonderful news with her husband, but hid the pregnancy from her father out of fear. Zofia's father committed suicide a few months later. His death was suspicious, but she never did believe the reports that came out of an apparent suicide. She thought there was much more to the story than an apparent suicide. With her father gone, Zofia desperately wanted to rekindle her relationship with her long-lost younger sister, Ella. She wanted to feel what it was like to have her original family back. Ella would refuse after years and years of her being in Zofia's shadow, where her father very explicitly showed both of them that he cared for Zofia much more than he ever cared for Ella. But in 2017, when Ella was offered the prestigious position on Team Rainbow, Zofia desperately wanted to join as well. One, because she really does want to be with Ella again, and two, because she hates the Grom now because of how much it reminds her of her now dead father. Zofia used her many connections to get to Six, or the leader of Team Rainbow, Harry, personally. Upon the interview process that Harry does to all recruits of Team Rainbow, he states how Zofia was very withdrawn and really struggled on communicating. Harry didn't attempt to pry any info out of her that would upset her, like the passing of her father or her military husband. But after a little bit, Harry was able to actually have a good conversation with Zofia, to where she even started telling stories of her kid. Harry notes that it's a good thing to have another mother on Team Rainbow. Harry and Zofia both exchanged their warm greetings, and Harry offered a position to Zofia on Team Rainbow. Now, coming up next is the device evaluation that has to be done to every single operator that joins Team Rainbow. This time, this device evaluation for Zofia was completed by Specialist Tina Lin Sung, or Frost, and Specialist Jordan Trace, or better known as Thermite. To sum up the evaluation, Frost talks about how the concussive effects of Zofia's lifeline reminds her of Ella, and Thermite also says that the explosive aspects of her lifeline reminds him of Ash's gadget. They both are actually really impressed with how it impairs hearing, vision, and movement of the enemies that are within the lifeline range. They are also very thankful that Zofia is a new member of Team Rainbow and are happy to have her. Well, now with the device evaluation done, we are all caught up on Zofia's lore. Let me know in the comments if you thought Zofia's backstory was challenging, and also let me know who you guys want to see next. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe with notifications if you're new. Now with all that being said, Jippy!